So I've got the heart sitting on top of the spacer, and I just heated it up until I could see the solder flow right here. So quench it and pickle it. Now we're going to make our hasp, and you can use round or square wire, but it has to be smaller than your spacer. So this square wire is 2 millimeters. Now you could solder a piece of chenille tubing on the end, but what I'm going to do is plenish this to half its thickness, anneal it, and then roll it into a nice tight curve, so that it'll save me one solder joint and one possible point where it can break. So you can see I've hammered this to half its thickness, and of course it's wider, but I'm going to go ahead and make my little loop, and little being the appropriate word. So just roll it nice and tight until it touches. Then we can solder it, and it's flat on this side, then I can file this side so that it's the same thickness of the wire. So we'll solder it first and then make it the same width as this, and then we'll form it into our hasp. It's soldered and filed, and now I'm just going to straighten it up a little bit. So this will pivot on a rivet here. So now we have to turn this around so that this end goes in. We'll file a notch on there so that it catches on that side. And I'm probably just going to use a ring mandrel. At roughly this size, so I'm just putting it on the top of the heart, and it looks like about an H. So we'll see how that goes. Not bad. Cut that about there so we can see what's happening. So pretty good. And you can see with our pivot here, we'll just make that go down into the point where we'll mark it where we need to file it. And we can tell just by looking at this side. So you just eyeball it, get it so it looks good, and then go from there. So you can see my hasp, the way it's going to work. I need a pin here for it to rotate on, and this is my little catch part, so that when it goes down here, it'll click into there. And we want the bottom part sharp, because this is sharp, so they need to match, otherwise it won't hold. It can be like that. And now I just have to decide whether I'm going to rivet or solder a pin in. I think I'll rivet it. So that'll be quite easy. I can just hold this in position, drill through, basically assemble the thing, put this in, and put the rivet through. So once I get my rivet hole, I can solder this side on, and that part will be finished. So I have my hasp the way I want it. I have my hole drilled for the rivet. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put the other side on. So it's just a matter of flexing the spacer, flexing the other half of the heart, putting our bits of solder on there, and then heating it up. And by riveting this, we don't have to worry about soldering our hasp to any of this. So now, a few large pieces of flat solder. Place them with your flex brush. Now I'm gently going to put the flame on here just to dry out the flux, so that when I put the other side on, it doesn't push it off. It should be good. We'll put the heart on. Let it cool for a second, otherwise you're going to burn your fingers. Now once again, in the beginning I'm going to hold my solder pick on this so it doesn't shift around. And that's good. You can see our solder is flowed everywhere. So quench it and pickle it. So there's our little puffy heart all soldered together with our spaces in the appropriate spots. So now file with your number 2 cut flat hand file. Sand 400 grade sandpaper on your sanding stick. Make it all nice and pretty. Drill your hole straight through, and you'll notice that we've got enough room to go straight through. If it was really big, the drill only goes to the step. So with these drills with a 2.3 millimeter shank, you're kind of limited to the depth. So we'll just hold this straight up and down. And drill through the other side. Now I broke the drill bit, so I've got to take it out. What I forgot to do, came right out. What I forgot to do was put wax on my bit. So you always put wax on your bit, especially if you're drilling into copper or brass. I've just pushed a piece of chenille through that I'm going to use for my rivet. And you can see, you just push on this side a little bit to release it, and you can hear it click when it goes into place. So that's good. Now about all that's left is a little jump ring in here for a safety chain, if you want one. But that's our little puffy heart that looks like a lock, or a lock that looks like a puffy heart.